Hi, this is Elbray Valendar, Hervé Perot from the Tree Gardener on this wonderful piece of land in Williams. Looking at an original naturalized orchard trees that were sprinkled out throughout a property, and they've had a balance of being cared for and taking care of themselves through adapting to the area. And these are pretty cool looking trees. So we're going to talk about how to look at one and restore it to a structure that'll just prevent breaks or sunburn or things that will harm the tree to where repairs won't help it, and it'll have a fault in it from there on. So if I can prevent a big weakness from happening, then I'm looking at that. I try not to determine what I want and manipulate it too hard. Just adjust it so that it's not so dominated throughout the tree, that there's an even spacing of branches so sun can get all the way through and we don't have a dominant south side, or we don't have a burning south facing north limbs. And we're just going to create this tree that's in harmony, where there's no major sunburns, no major domination, where it's shading and killing other parts of the tree, and then just keeping branches from getting too long and tip heavy, and then breaking and bending, and then getting sunburn on the top as the limb goes down. These are things that I'm thinking of for when we do some pruning help. We're not here to create something we want. We're here to see what this tree has been doing and then just support that character so that it doesn't break and then tear and rip and get disease in the north side and the north half, and just to keep blight out of there. Good to have wind going. And then you know if a limb is going, what a limb is going to create in 20 years from now, we'll end up making having to do a big cut to prevent a big damage. So then why not structurally prune and do smaller cuts that directionalize the limbs in order to be in a strong structure 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Think far ahead. So when you make a cut, you're not just thinking of what that cut looks like to you, but what is it doing as you remove it? Is it causing sunburn if we remove it? Is it opening growth from our lower tier so that we have fruit throughout the tree, heavier on the bottom, a little lighter on top? A lot of times the limbs are heavy bearing on the tips and there's nothing in the middle, nothing growing down low. We want to balance that a little better and have more reachable fruit, lower fruit, inside leaves that move the air through the tree. Not real thick, but everything in kind of a balance, you know. So here's this tree as an example, and I'm going to look at the domination that's going on. And as you can tell, we have this leader that comes right up here. It follows the straight of the trunk and just follows that run of energy up. And then the back side is not as developed. And it's reaching out for sun to try to get around the domination of the south side. So then we will get less leggy growth on the north side. We'll get thickening up of the trunks holding fruit on the north side as we channel this energy on the south side to different parts of the tree. And then we're looking at limbs that are going across to the other side that are very leggy. We're going to start bringing them down slowly to buds that are going another direction. We're not going to open up that middle right away because sunburn will come. It's been used to growing a certain way and parts of the tree are sensitive and tender. So we have to do this slowly and at certain times of the year. Pruning is not just for one time of the year. They say dormant prune, but there's, depending on what you want to do for your tree, you will time your pruning according to those needs without doing damage. So you don't over prune in the winter and then blight spreads with rain on open new cuts, and then summer pruning can expose a tender area. But it channels energy to the fruit and it channels energy to the limbs that you want for your structure. So you're directing the energy flowing through the tree to the branches you can see are going to be the stable, skeleton and structure of the tree for its life. And we're looking at the tree this way. And we're looking at how it's been reacting to the sun, and we're looking at damaged size, damaged parts. When one limb gets used to growing and leaning on another, but they're crossing, and you go, okay, I'm getting rid of crossing branches, and you get rid of this crossing branch that has been the stilt, the support for this one, and this one can break. So we cannot always be able to bring it back to a proper structure that we have learned. The structure is what it is if the tree is alive and healthy. And sometimes we'll have to keep those limbs like that, because when they've been doing something that is a little unbalanced for a very long time, it can be worse to remove it than to just prune it to where it'll exist in that way. So when limbs get tall and they grow up, like those, all new growth, fresh growth is growing tall, they're going to fruit on tips and then bend over and get burned. So what we're going to do is we will go in there and either train and pull them down a little bit to create these arching ones and let it leaf and don't clean any of the limb, and do it slowly, a couple years, and utilize these instead of just cutting them down. As you can see how there's this big hole here, and then we have this dominating limb here. We're going to try to create what it is there, which is almost can be an open vase up in the upper area, to where we can have it open to air and structural branches that are going to be a constant at an angle there for a vase. Because it's just going to have to be, because they're straight shoots, so we cut to the buds going out. And then we look at the disease caused underneath in the shade from the crown being too thick. So if you go up and cut the crown really hard, it's going to blow buds at the top 3 or 4. And then you have this too heavy of a canopy shading the inside, harboring disease and protecting bugs. So you want to open it, but not to sunburn. You want to open it to air and movement and balance, 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 balance.